But yeah, I'm really excited because there's so many of us that want to get back in the room together just for that networking and that. So it's going to be lovely to be able to do that, and you know, just whether we hug or tap shoulders, which seems to be the latest thing at meetings.
It's the hello.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Yeah.
Namaste. That's a good one. Namaste.
Yeah. So I know all the meetings I've been going to, it's really funny because you know, there's all the guys. So like you're meeting with the building team, so there's probably 5 of them and 4 of us. And I'll walk in and it's like they don't know what to do with me, right? So then they offer the elbow to tap. But with the guys, they just go straight away and shake hands. Now, I'm not sure if they're protecting me or they just don't know what to do.
Hygienic as shaking hands anyway, so they may as well just...
Yeah, but it's just ironic.
Yeah.
And so I find it really funny that, you know, we're sort of treated a little bit different, but it's okay. I'm all right with that. That's fine.
It's a bit weird though, isn't it? Like, you know, that you know, just actually the physical touch is a real way that humans connect, you know, and it feels weird not doing it.
Yeah, and now Sir Donald and I got to the point where it's like, oh, bugger it, we just cuddle.
I'm done with not hugging people. I think last year I just saw her like
big hug, and yeah, so I guess, you know, if we're going to have something to worry about, it would have happened by now. Not to, you know, diminish the importance of it, but we're like family anyway, and so is Sir Donald's, and you know, and we've had a lot to do with each other. So I feel comfortable in that environment. I think that's what we've all got to work out for ourselves. Mind you, I haven't attended any protests or anything like that. So hopefully we're all safe. Yeah. So let's get started. And are we recording? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so welcome ladies again, as always. Really good to see you here. As we know, this gets recorded and then posted a little bit later. So we're going to turn you off, and that sounds good, doesn't it? We're just turning you off.
We'll turn you
shut you down. So as we shut you down, I just wanted to, Mary, you said you wanted a copy of this, and you've got to send me your address and I'll send it to you. But this is a book. Does it show up back the front when you actually, it's Living an Abundant Life. Anyway, and it's an interesting story because I co-authored in this book. And it was about 15, 18 years ago, and it was actually done with Sandy Foster, and I don't know if any of you remember Sandy, but she was Dipna Boholt's partner in Wildly Wealthy Women back then, and I had no idea what I was heading to when I came up from Victoria and landed in Coolum, this place, somewhere in Queensland, and attended an event, and I went on to join Sandy in being a co-author in this, and some of the other co-authors were world-renowned, so like Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen for the Chicken Soup for the Soul. Those that know, Dr. Wayne Dyer, I mean, most people know of him, he's now passed away sadly, but Neil Donald Welch, another one, Brian Tracy, so there's a whole range of talent in here, and somehow I got to pop my little 5 minutes worth in here as well. And that was after I actually went through burnout, and I started trying to help other people that, you know, think there is all darkness and no light at the end of the tunnel, because I think that's one of the things I just said, just show me someone who's made it through this. It was a horrible time in my life, 12 months of just doom, gloom, black. And I burnt out because I was doing a project and I was trying to do everything and be everything for everybody. And I was down to 4 hours sleep a night. I burnt off 12 kilos in 2 weeks by the time I finally, and the only way I can explain it is, it's like, I call it burnout because it was like a tire. And you know how when you're doing a burnout in a car, it gets faster and faster and faster until finally it goes bang, pop. It blew out and I couldn't get out of bed. I literally could not get out of bed, and it was a horrific time because I still had a daughter going through year 12 and you know, others dependent on me, and it was not a pleasant time. So I am so encouraging to anybody else, don't put yourself in that position, just don't go it alone. And I'll never do, you know, projects alone anymore, because you know, you never know when you're going to get a health challenge. And if you can just say, you know what, I'm going to take time out, I've got to just nurture myself right now, that's really important. And they can step in and go, got your back, got you covered, go take a few days or your week, whatever you need. And so I just wanted to say I've got about 20 copies of these. So if anyone wants them, just message me. It's a great coffee book. Like, you just pick it up and you read a few stories, a bit like Chicken Soup for the Soul, you know, read a few pages and it's a story, or it's a word of encouragement, or it's some lessons. So yeah, just let me know, which is sort of got a way, segue. I'm going to segue. I'm going to segue into this today's topic. Now, Becca's obviously is very detailed in personality profiling, you know, knowing our characteristics and learning a lot about ourselves, but also learning about other people. And this topic is one of the topics that we don't like looking at. Right?
That's why you wouldn't write it in the Facebook
That's
post.
right.
I did. I'm like, what did you?
Because they won't show up. They won't show up because it's what we need to know. We do need to discover this in ourselves and how it impacts ourselves. So I'm not going to use the word because it's not in my dictionary.
Oh, like it.
But I'm going to hand over right now to the wonderful Becca's, and she's going to dive right in. And all I'm asking you to do is to stay open. Keep your mind open, right? And just be curious and say, okay, is this me? Is any part of this me? Is this something I can catch myself doing? so with that intrigue,
I'm surprised they're all still here.
Yeah, I haven't run yet. Let's go for it.
Awesome. It's so interesting in my line of work, in coaching people, how themes come up, and it just works. It just is constant. You know, there's a theme. Generally, it changes about monthly, and then I end up, and I'm sure it on some level comes from me. That would be undeniable, so I won't even try. The thing I'm going to talk about today is how we can protect ourselves from ourselves. And the word that we was trying to avoid is something called self-sabotage. So I'm going to share a screen and just take, I was going to get you just to take notes, but I'm going to put this basic notes up on the screen so that you guys can see them. If I could you know, work that out.
Any second.
Because I've never done this before.
No.
Here we go. All right.
Can you see that, everyone? Just thumbs up.
So how do I self-sabotage? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I know it can feel a bit uncomfortable.
I don't.
You don't. No, you don't.
No, I don't.
We all self-sabotage.
Okay.
And even when we know about it, you know, it's going to constantly come up, and it comes up in different ways. And it's important to talk about because, like everything, the more aware we are of it, the more capable we are to manage and change it. So there are some trigger words in here today, and that's kind of purposeful, and not everyone loves that, but I'm okay with that if you're okay with that. So just trust and take it as you will, and have a giggle along the way. So I'm going to talk about a few sort of 5 different categories of ways we might do this. And as we go through, you might want to, you know, identify with some or with others, or a couple, or know in the past when you might have done certain things. And absolutely, you know, I'm not going to take a lot of time to go through them, so we can certainly have a chat or ask questions and look at anything else that you might want to share as well. So the first one I want to talk about is I know.
That's not me.
No, no, that's not you. You're the eternal learner. And I know is a self-sabotaging technique because if I know, then I can't learn. So this shows up where we become we're closed. It's like, oh, yep, I know that. And it might not be that we say that out loud, but it might be something that we say inside. So when I said, oh, we're going to talk about self-sabotage today, you might have gone, oh, yep, I've worked through that, did that with my therapist or coach or whatever. And that's a version of I know. You might, you know, see a topic coming up in relation to real property. And you might say, oh, I know that. I know how to do duplexes, or, you know, I know how to create that environment or get that or whatever it might be. So,
and it can be as simple as, like, I know
yes.
with my daughters. So for example, Taryn will go, yeah, I know, Mum, I know. I go, and my response to that is, so why aren't you doing it? You know, because it's one thing knowing, but if you don't actually
to know
do,
and not to do is not
you
true.
don't know. right?
That's totally, absolutely true. And so in fact,
sorry, Karen.
So in fact, yeah, just delete those words from your vocabulary, because if you hear something or see something that you have come across before, then perhaps you can, you know, say, I've come across that before, which still leaves you open to hear new information. Or you could say, I've experienced that before, which still leaves you open. So just interesting. And while we're on cancelling of words, but is the other one that we need to remove. And you can ask me why later. So yeah, so technique number one, which we can just hopefully remove, but we just let's be aware of it. This is absolutely one that I have experienced 100%, and I've done so many hours of painful personal development sometimes and I know it's painful because I find myself going, yep, I know, can you stop telling me what I need to know? So,
and I find that even in the circle of, because we sit at a boardroom table and there'll be say 10, 12 around that. In self-isolation it might be, or in isolation it might be 6, but you know, in general you can be saying something at that and they go, yep, I know, and they clearly don't know because they aren't applying it. And there's a lot of assumption around that. When you close off that mind to, I know.
And it might be that you know in another context,
yes.
But what does I know in this context?
That's right. Well, no, you don't know because you're not inside my head. So my version of that could be very different to your version of that. So I think what you're saying is really stay open instead of closing off and saying, I know. Open it up and go, well, that's interesting. Yeah. Can I have your version of that?
Yes. Well, what else is there to know about that? Yeah. Love that. There you go. So that's the first one.
Now we can park it.
So make a note whether you feel like you might do that sometimes. So close to the new, this one's below the line. So we're talking about down here, blame, excuses, denial, below the line behaviour is when we have story for something. Oh, yep, well, that's because of this. And so there's a lack of ownership. And so it's like, okay, it's the lack of everything that's above the line there. But, you know, it's a self-sabotage because as soon as I'm blaming or making excuses or in denial or telling a story, I'm not able to work with that. Yeah.
The other one I see often in our group, there's a particular person that does that. I think it would nearly sit down there. It's not quite explained there, but it's a combination, which is, oh, yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Yeah. I was heading in that path. Yeah. So it's still, they haven't done it. They haven't done what they said they were going to do. And then you've come up with a suggestion to perhaps, I'm sounding like I'm perfect because I'm not, but in this case, the example is they come up with a response that sort of excuses why they haven't done it by saying, yeah, I was thinking that, I just wanted to get you guys to check. So it was really just a bit of a handball for a moment there, but now I'm putting, I'm going to put it back in your court.
Oh, absolutely.
So they might
fall
put
to one of the other
themselves some
categories
time.
as well. Yes, right. Yeah, well, it's lack of ownership, isn't it?
Yes.
And that, because I can't help myself, ownership and accountability, two different things.
Yes.
So ownership is, oh yeah, that's on my list. Yep, I've got that. Accountability is, where's the tick in the box?
Where's the proof?
How do we know it's done? Yeah. So below the line, if you find yourselves telling stories, making excuses, blame, it's self-sabotage because it doesn't allow you to move forward. It keeps you where you are. Okay, so taking the alternative to that is like, that was on my list, I'm yet to do it. I haven't done it.
And if you're dealing with consultants, ladies, particularly trades and all those sorts of things, engineers, civil, oh man, you're going to hear lots of excuses and, why things weren't done and whether involved or COVID. Shire councils taking the best of that one for excuses at the moment. So how would...
Yeah, well, this shows up very much so that there's sabotage for ourselves, but sabotaging projects. So something to think about, and we could have an extended conversation about, so how do I manage someone who is sabotaging our project or our group or our plan? And so in that instance, it is about accountability. So there's a few ways that we can do that. So if someone's in blame, excuses, denial and story, can get a little bit of runway, but then having really good questioning is really important. So things like Okay, so was there a timeline on that? When do you think you will get that done? What resources do you need to complete that? So getting very specific, because those who are in sabotage mode, and especially around below the line, love to generalize. I know I've always said before.
Yeah. And that's something you can ask them, but also ask yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you had those questions in front of you and just go, hang on, let's do a reality check on me. And ask those same questions. And it's like, and write the answers. And then make your plan. How are we going to go forward? How are we going to make sure that, you know, I stay on track? Because time is of the essence. Whenever you're doing a project, doesn't matter what size, time is of the essence. So as you let a day slip, it turns into a few days, it turns into a week, it turns into a month. Now, when you think about a project, there's holding costs, there's, you know, lining up trades and one dependent on the other. So it's really important that you hold yourself accountable if you haven't got someone else to do that. And there's no one better if you're honest with yourself than you doing it. And obviously, you know, there's going to be times when there's no one else seeing what you're doing as you're going out on your motorbike when you shouldn't be going out on your motorbike or something like that. Not that I'd ever do that. But, you know, it's really self-accountability as much as, and taking that ownership, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you want a bit of a guide as to what questions you can ask of yourself or of anyone else in that situation, just start with the W's, the what, when, why, and the how, of course. How much, anything that gets us specific.
One of the things I like is, I don't know where it comes from, but it's famous, but if not, why not?
Yeah.
You know, it's been around for quite a while and I've used it. Maybe I learned it at the Australian Institute of Company Directors. It was one of the fundamentals that you will be asked as a company director. If you haven't done your judicial duty of care, you'll be asked in the court of law, if not, why not? And it comes right down to the bottom line. Oh, no excuses. If not, why not? So,
and this is a big one too, because often we won't ask ourselves the questions because we don't know the answers. And it's okay not to have the answers, because until we ask the questions, our brains can't find them. But if we ask questions that we don't have the answers to, if not, why not? When could I? How could I? And who covered that? Jen was in their session the other week, which did a great job of that, around abundant mindset. How could I? When could I? What do I need? Those are the really good questions to help shift that mindset.
And I think this is why it still ties in with the abundant mindset, is because once you dive in and ask the questions, right, and you be honest with yourself, then you've got to say, okay, well, how are we going to move forward? And once you make a decision, and we're just talking about that with Gail offline before we came on, once she started making that decision, all of a sudden it's going bang, bang, bang. She gets the part-time job, the property's going on the market, this is happening, that's happening. So understanding that you can sit there and be complacent about the problems or the excuses or not taking accountability, but once you do take ownership of that, dive in, find out what's really going on, then make the decision.
Be okay to sit with the discomfort of not having the answers for a little while as well. And so to Lorna's point, these sabotage techniques are what keep us from that abundant mindset. So it is directly related to that. So below the line, telling the story, I'm blaming, I'm excusing. I'll throw this out there, we're going to cover it today, but 100% responsibility. So if you are truly above the line, you're taking 100% responsibility. And you let that percolate. That's a big one. And what if? And what if? Okay? Drama hook.
Oh, I don't know anyone that has a drama. No one.
No one you know gets caught into drama. I never get caught into drama. So the drama hook is getting pulled into drama, man. Like,
and everyone else's drama.
Everyone else is
pulled
drama,
into, right?
And this is a really common theme in coaching of all types is someone else's needs came up. So you might feel this is familiar if you find that it's difficult to stay focused or get momentum or get progress on the thing that you need to do because you're getting constantly pulled into other people's drama. And if you're getting pulled into other people's drama, it's because you're lacking the clarity about what your priorities are. And that leaves space for other people's, yes, Gail, like a vortex. Absolutely, if you're Sabateur Vex or anything like that, your vortex will be familiar. But yes, you've got to create your own, your own vortex, because otherwise you will inevitably get pulled into others.
So those that don't know about the vortex, I'll use a different translation because I do, Gail, appreciate what you're saying. But this goes back to when we talked about a vision. If you've got your vision and you're very clear about that vision, from that vision comes your milestones and your steps. So as I said to you, each day I get up and I've got my affirmations that I go through. It's actually a video that I've created from PowerPoint slide, words and music, right? But the first one is about having a very clear vision and steps forward for what I need to do today. Now, when you can ask yourself the question, like, any sort of drama can come into your life, in children, husbands, friends, associates, on-site, off-site. But if you say, to yourself, what is the priorities that I have to do today? And it's not that you're not compassionate to the other person, but you just don't get dragged in. You have to, whether you call it white light yourself, protect yourself, you have to be in a vein that will help you achieve the outcomes that you need to achieve, be compassionate, but also remember, you've got a responsibility to yourself to stay out of that drama. Otherwise, it becomes a heavy weight for you. And next thing you find yourself being dragged down the road on someone else's journey, and you've actually got totally off your own journey, totally off your own vision.
And you don't have to not care. You're right. Like, you can still be there. You can still be involved in things that are happening. You can still be helping people. It's an emotional and mental space that you need to protect more than anything. Yes, you absolutely need to say no to some things. I'm looking at all of you, and I'm sure that that will speak to all of you in some ways. There's some things you just need to say no to, or not right now. And if we are saying yes to things, we need to still create a level of detachment that allows us to keep our energy for ourselves. And that will help us be aligned. So you've got your vision, and then your priorities are clear, then things can fit around that instead of taking over it. And I'm just going to give you an example of alignment sitting right in front of me. So Lorna, it's a lovely example of alignment. So see this book that Lorna's had. How many years have you carried that around?
Well, I guess it's about 15 years. I've got a box of them.
Yeah, and this is Lorna's phone cover.
I love it. Did you didn't notice that? Yeah.
I love it. Well, it could be the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
That's alignment. That's clarity. An example of.
Yeah. I mean, there's recent examples too of that, like how much drama has been around COVID-19, the protests, and that's just, well, we could sit there and watch that TV all day and get caught up in it. And I know a lot of people that do, right? It's not healthy. We can have an opinion, or we don't have to have an opinion, but if it consumes us, and I think this is what we're really talking about, is when we let the drama hook consume us. That is so not healthy.
So a conversation I've had this week specifically around this in coaching is, what are your rules for making decisions? Yeah, around, it could be to do with your business or in personal environment. So, and that often stumps people. It's like, what do you mean what are my rules? It's like, because we must have guide. We must have a guide to help us so that we don't get emotionally drained from every single thing. So having some rules around how you make decisions. What boxes do they need to tick for you to take it on board?
And I think Mary's brought a good point up there too. She's saying it's really important when you're doing joint ventures, not just that if not, why not, but it's also important that, if you're doing a joint venture with the other party and suddenly, they could go down into a rabbit hole with depression, someone's got to hold the fort. Someone's got to keep that project going. And so it's important to be compassionate to their needs, but at the same time to keep driving that project, because as I said, time is of the essence. So there are so many different ways that this applies, the drama.
I know. Cool. I thought this was going to be a short presentation.
Okay, let's go. Next one. That's great.
We should talk more.
Here we go.
You can't see the picture. It was really hard to choose a picture. So I think this is one good, because I sent my notes to Lorna the other day, and I think this one was just prepared to share it.
The dot points.
Yeah. So this is about, giving ourselves away. So even more to that point, so there's the drama, and then there's having other people's priorities be more important and devaluing ourselves. And this is very much where that sense of I'm not valuable enough, their need is more important than my need, or I'm so unclear on what is my need that I'm going to, you know, buy into somebody else's need. You know, there's something I read, it was a Tony Robbins thing actually years ago, and it talks about creating expectations of ourselves. And it was for me in relation to parenting at the time, and that, you know, one of our roles as parents is to help our children develop expectations of themselves, because we all live up to the expectations that are set for us. And if we do not set those for ourselves, we will live up to the expectations that someone else sets for us.
And I see this as when I see prostitutes, I can say it, because one of my favourite movies had a prostitute in it. So, but anyway,
You're going to bring another one.
Anyway, what I see is you're selling your soul. That's how I see it, right? You're prostituting yourself, you're selling your soul, and you're selling your time, you're selling your value, and you're actually selling it compared to what? I always look at compared to what. So if you're prostituting yourself to say, okay, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do this because they need it, what's it taking you away from? You know, and we're all guilty of this.
Well, and we don't know. That's why we end up in that position, because we have that lack of clarity. And the prostitute in this sense is just a use of a word, and there's no other meaning around that. It's a conscious choice for a lot of people, and there's no judgment here on that.
So ask pretty woman, she knows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, what did she learn? She learned how to value herself.
Absolutely.
Right? So by working out what she wanted, what her needs were. Let's not go
Which is pretty
women, but yeah,
he'd be my need, yeah.
Derailing really fast. That's good. So this is my other favourite word. I could have replaced it with this word, but this is another trigger word for a lot of this is martyr.
Oh, we know a lot of them.
Yeah, right.
Actually, my mum was a martyr.
Yeah.
And that was really sad. And I swore I'll never be that.
Yeah.
Sadly, but she just gave her life
Yeah.
to everyone else's needs. And I just swore I will never, ever be in that situation where she was absolutely exhausted by trying to be, like, we were on a farm, we had 4 children she had to look after, but not only that, she had to look after all the shearers and feed them, all meals
and
were
it's
handcooked.
very much a sense of the expectations being set from outside. So it doesn't mean that we can't have all those roles, but did I choose them or did someone else choose them for me? So that's my thing for you ladies, and this is not restricted to ladies. Like, there are plenty of women martyrs out there as well, and we all have access to doing that. So it really is about clarity. Who's deciding?
Yes.
Who's deciding?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course you're going to give yourself to your children. That's what a mother does, and that's a mother's responsibility. But what
consciously?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I guess my mum didn't do was stand up to my dad and say, you know what, you're asking too much of me. Just back off.
Yeah, that's going to be. Oh, and
I made sure I got good at that.
I still slip into it sometimes, and then I have to. It's very empowering for someone to come home and say, "Oh, what's for dinner?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. What are you cooking?
Yeah, I don't know. What are you cooking?
Yeah, exactly. So
I never tried that.
Yeah. So prostitute, martyr, giving yourself away. It's really a matter of being very clear on what you're choosing. So making sure that you're choosing.
So let me relate that to property. Okay, so you've got a vision. You know what you want to do with your property. You know that this is the goal, the end result. Now you stay open to advice and wisdom, because that's a good thing to do. But if someone starts to try and take you off track and you just want to be a people pleaser, wrong. Don't do it. This is where you're starting to be that people pleaser, martyr sort of tie in a bit there, I believe. And so you need to keep your vision, stay open, but open to valuable information and wisdom that comes in, but stay on track with your, yes, I'll accept that, or no, thank you for your advice, but that's not where I want to take this project.
Yeah.
Get off prostitute. Let's go.
Making not a very uncomfortable. I would have gone back. Child. So we had another session, if you haven't watched it, on the parent, adult, child, and this kind of slips into that as well. But yeah, there's another sabotage. If I'm in, well, I don't know how to do that, or poor me syndrome.
So this one's about being a Suki Lala, right?
Suki Lala. I love that photo. It is, and they all kind of intermingle, because it makes me immediately go back to below the line as well. and just not taking ownership. I don't know yet. If I could find a way, what would it be? You know, looking for that abundant mindset versus the give up mindset. You know, so if I say I don't know, what options does that give me? It gives me 0 options.
Well, I think the image is sort of a little bit about what this means to me in these terms. It's that suki lala. It's just that defiant.
Yes.
I won't even open myself up to hearing, learning, wondering, being inquisitive about what you have to say or what I might be able to gain out of it. I'm just going to be a stick in the mud and defiant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do this well, don't I?
You do that very well, and she's practiced that.
I've got grandkids that do this to me.
So these
Spit the dummy, yeah, that's it, Gail.
Yeah. So all of those, and we all have variations on those, they ultimately all close us off.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what sabotage is. It's denying us other options. It's denying us growth. It's denying us learning. So
I think it comes back to the initial who I must be, come, right? I think we've wrapped it right back to that because for me, if you close off, as Becca's saying, then how can you become the best version of you? How can you become the authority that you're meant to be on your project or, you know, and it's not saying authority in a bad way, it's just authentic authority of your life needs you to be the best version of you that you can become. And if we close ourselves off, and as I've said before, this is a forever journey for me, and I know it is for you too, Becca, because we love to learn more about ourselves, but also the you know, the consciousness of others and how we can work better with them and how we can open. I know I'm forever working with my kids, for example, and the grandkids, you know, around and you know, going through a bit of a tough time or whatever. It's like I use this all the time, but I've learnt it, and I know you know, might have to start way back with Louise Hay's, You Can Heal Your Life, and relate things back to how the emotion and the physical connect. You know, it could be something as simple as that. Well, it's not that simple. She did some wonderful work and still does. But, you know, there's so many different ways you can learn this, and we're giving you a tip of the iceberg type of thing. But I know that, Becca's, if there's anyone that wants to go diving a little bit deeper, you've always offered to help them. And, you know, starts with the disc profile that's been offered before. But do you want to close with something intelligent rather than me waffling?
No, it's like, so I hope you've enjoyed it, and we can open up for some questions now. Or if you want to have a chat or just share anything. That self-sabotage, it's you doing it. No one else is doing it. Okay?
Yeah.
So how do you protect yourself from yourself? You make the choices. You create the plans. You have a vision. You write the story. You are the author.
Yeah, and I think Gail's
a great example of that.
Yes, we have only one life. This is not a trial run. I do not want to be at the end and have regrets. I didn't learn and grow. And that's a really good point, Gail, because I know, I say this often, and, you know, my kids will sometimes just shy away from what I'm about to do, you know, whether it be jump off a cliff, kite or whatever. But it's like, I'm not going to die wondering. I'm going to have a go. I'm not going to die wondering, you know, and that includes starting a business. That includes starting this little group.
Yeah, you know,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to be able to let go of these things because sabotage can be a comfortable place to be.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Yeah, it can be a comfortable place to be because there is a level of control in that, right? And choosing another path can be less control. I watched a movie with my girls last night. I'm trying to think what movie it was now. Oh, no, it was an episode of Queer Eye. If you don't watch it, it's so good. Honestly, we were all crying. And this girl had a mobile group dog grooming business in a van that was no longer mobile, and it was just dreadful. Anyway, at the end of the episode, she had a new van, a new life, a new business. It was really wonderful, beautiful story. And then they showed them at the car graveyard and she took to this old van with a sledgy, and then they had the big crane pick it up and break it and everything. My 10-year-old next week was devastated. I would never do that. That's where her business started. That's her whole background. You know, she should hold on to that. And my older daughter was like, she's moving on. You got to let go of the past, you know. And this was the whole theory of you've got to let go, to move forward. So if you need some help with that, we can,
absolutely,
Anyway,
so,
open up if you've got any questions or you want to chat. Please pop back on and do that. And then otherwise, you can always email. Call.
So that's the other way, just to email us and ask you questions if you want some help that way. But otherwise, we'll see you ladies next week. Again, who knows what the topic will be next week. We'll just make something up.
There'll be a thing.
That affects property, so it's okay. All right. Cheers for now, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.